All right, looks like I'm live. Yo, what's up, Dark Void? You the first person in, as usual. Uh, 'Cause normally you get here before everybody else. Heck, sometimes you in before I am. So just putting that out there. This one's just going to be random, whatever comes to mind, as I have said right here. I actually finally did that right. As I've said right there, whatever comes to mind, whatever subject comes up, or anything that anybody drops in the chat that I'm interested in talking about, or whatever random thing pops into my head. But I do have something that's interesting for those who may not have heard it that will probably find themselves on this stream. Now, I made a Twitter post about this, and many people that follow me already have seen this. If you don't follow me or you're new, this is going to be something, probably something in the back of your mind when you think about it. You're like, yeah, that makes sense that this is a weird thing to be a problem. But before the Wii U became the Wii U, it was called Project Cafe. Most of us know that it was called Project Cafe. Project Cafe was being speculated about constantly. There were gaming journalists who had seen Project Cafe before it got its name. And during that time frame, it was called a console, right? I wasn't even the one that originally brought this up. I think Shadow Fox actually said something about this before, and it didn't make sense to me at the time to even think about it. Like back then, during the process of everybody not understanding what the Wii U was, and I'm sitting there like, he said that, and I was like, that makes sense. Like, why was there such a problem going from calling Project Cafe a console, and we're building all these PCs to emulate what Project Cafe should be capable of. But then it becomes the Wii U and we don't understand what it is. When I say we, I'm not talking about myself. I say we in the broader spectrum. Okay. Um, and I'm not saying people that generally follow me, because anybody that's following me, you probably heard me talk about this type of stuff multiple times over. And at this point, it's not really a surprise to you. Um, but it's just, how did we go from Project Cafe being a console to then suddenly being a tablet controller? A tablet controller that somehow, without being made for the specs of the Wii, upgrades it to this HD machine. Not that the Wii wasn't capable of being able to process HD, because the original Xbox was, but it still wouldn't look too different. It would still look like the Wii. The games would still look like the Wii games. They'd just be clearer, less pixelated. So, how do we go from the graphical capabilities that the Wii had to being above what the 360 and PS3 could do by introducing this thing to something else? That's always going to be a question I ask, because it doesn't make logical sense, and anybody into tech would understand that. I don't expect the people that are outside of the sphere of tech at all to understand that, or even people outside of gaming to understand that. But how did we go from calling it a console to a tablet? Now, I've already done the stream talking about that particular thing where G4 screwed the pooch on everybody on purpose. It's just that one of those things where when you dive deeper into the bits and pieces of it and you go further back, it starts to look more and more and more like it was intentionally set up to be that way. And I say that because the same thing is now happening because of the Switch 2. There's somebody, Sandstorm shared it. Hold on. You know what? I'm going to just go ahead and pull up the post. I'll just go ahead and pull up the post on X. Give me 1 second to find it. I know it's in my notifications. Let me go ahead and get to it. Yep. All right. So I'm about to go ahead and share that. Give me 1 second. So I just had to go ahead and find it real quick. But I'm sharing this on the screen. All right. So you see what I see. Analysts predict Switch 2 might struggle with attracting mainstream buyers for the same reason Wii U failed. I can imagine normies being a bit confused. How would you be confused by this? How would you be confused by this? Were people confused by the PS4? Let's just start it. You had the PlayStation, which was originally marked as PSX, but then became PS1. So you go from PS1 or PlayStation to PS2 or PlayStation 2. Nobody was confused. And they had very similar controllers. PS2 could play all the PS1 games, but nobody was confused, right? So you go from PS2 to PS3. And at start, there was a version of PS3 that could play all the PS1 and PS2 games with some caveats, obviously. But nobody was confused. They knew that 1 preceded 2 and 2 preceded 3. So it makes 3 the newest one. You go from PS3 to PS4. No confusion there. Then we technically go from PS4 to PS4 Pro. No confusion. We know that the PS4 Pro is still better than the PS4 technically. Then we go from the PS4 Pro to the PS5. No confusion. Then we have the PS5 Pro. Again, no confusion about what this device is. So you mean to tell me people are going to be confused going from Switch to Switch 2? We're going to be confused going from 1 to 2. Even though, and I still say it's not that the Wii U name was the reason for the confusion. It's just that that's what people lock onto now afterwards, because posthumously, or basically after it started not doing well, oh man, that name was the thing that was confusing. The name could be confusing with the fact that the U-Draw tablets came out around the same time, but that wouldn't have been the sole factor as to why things were the way they were. But let's just go a little bit further down. So this is where my post is. We'll go into my replies. And basically what I just said. And then it was like the argument was, and back when Project Cafe was still a thing, people were referring to it as the Wii 2 before the name Wii U came about. But this here is horribly egregious to me. Like the Wii U, essentially a Wii that used a primitive Switch as a gamepad. I don't know how your brain fixed to confuffle those words together. Because can somebody show me where you can get the version of this where the sides come off and you can use it like the Wii Remote Nunchuck or like the Joy-Cons? Because I want the version that does that, because I feel like I got robbed since this is a primitive Switch with no computational capabilities. This is a primitive Switch. This is just a screen with a Wi-Fi receiver inside of it that has controller buttons, and the touchscreen is usable. That's it. It's not a Switch. It's a different device. Which is funny to me, because you didn't see anybody say, hey, isn't it going to be confusing to have the PlayStation Portal be a screen with a controller inside of it? Nobody was confused about the PlayStation Portal. Why is it that we are confused about Nintendo's products when they are doing similar things? I'm very confused by this myself. I'm confused about the confusion. Can someone help me out with that? I am very confused by the confusion here. But and then the fact to say it was essentially a Wii that used a primitive Switch. So the Wii being a different shape than the Wii U, mind you, was able to play Wii U games. Can someone tell me where the Wii was able to play Wii U games? Like you could put the Wii U disc in the Wii and boot up the game and play it? I don't I who had these Wiis that were able to do that? Because I didn't have one. I got a Wii and a Wii. I have two Wiis now. I have two Wiis and a Wii U. Who had this version of the Wii that could do that? Because I'm like lost on that. I'm so lost on that. Like, that was horrible. Oh man, it's it's easy to get frustrated when you see this type of stuff happening. And then people will say, "Well, no, there wasn't any intentional messing up with Nintendo." Like, you're seeing it happen in real time, and you're going to tell me that wasn't done intentionally? The same thing happened before the Switch launched. That's why I even made videos like, "Hey, people, don't get your hopes up about the Switch doing gangbusters because we don't know it will." And I was going with the fact that we had gone through the Wii U. We saw what gaming media had done and how their message overwrote what Nintendo said. Thankfully, what Nintendo said overwrote gaming media this time. But who's going to be confused by a better version of what they have coming out and saying, "Hey, this is the new one. This is the better version of it. This is what you get if you want to get all the stuff going forward." I don't get where that is the thing that's confusing, especially when they make it as simplified as possible and just call it the Switch 2. They knew that somebody was going to do this, and they are pushing that idea that is going to be confusing. Back in 2017, back in 2017, 2017, I have the freaking if I can pull it up. Let me see. Ah, crap, it's not a PDF file. Let me see if I can upload it to my Google Drive real quick, because I have the image. So I'm about to just upload it to my Google Drive real quick and then pull it up from my Google Drive because I didn't put it in my Google Drive. But this is where I get frustrated. This this is where I get extremely frustrated when that type of stuff pops up. Ooh, Dre, don't hit that. That's the wrong thing. Oh crap. I'd have to try to do it as a, you know what? I'm doing this the hard way. There's a very simple way to do this. Very, very simple way to do this, and I'm making it harder on myself for no reason. Why did it not open the way it should have? That's not how I want you to open. I gotta change the file type. All this trouble for an image I already have on my damn computer. Just simply because I didn't do one thing. I'm sorry, y'all, for the slowdown. That's my fault. But now I got it. Now I got the issue fixed on that end. And hey, Trinell, wasn't trying to ignore you. But let's see. So, you mean to tell me you could see this? You see it says Nintendo account. It shows next integrated hardware software system. Next gaming system. Next gaming system. You know the successor? Value added services. So NSO with all the different consoles that are added to it, Nintendo Music, the parental controls and stuff, which I think that's just free anyhow, and whatever other things they're adding to NSO by expanding the library. We've had this image since 2017 that said, hey, this is how things are going to be working going forward. So if this, we know it's called Nintendo Switch Online Service. We have the Nintendo Switch. We knew that at least the Nintendo Switch was going to be part of the name, meaning it was going to carry forward everything. So how did we go? How are we going to say that Switch 2 is confusing? How are you going to say Switch 2 is confusing? This existed for a long period of time. This has been a thing for a long period of time. But I'll close that out. People just say things to say things sometimes without thinking. And sometimes they say it hoping you don't think about it. All right, little girl, here you go. What did you get on your hand? All right, there we go. Clean hand. But people will say things hoping that you, as the consumer or the viewer or the listener, won't think about it yourself. That you won't stop to pay any sort of attention to the thing that was said. So I get frustrated just simply because it's stuff being presented to us and people expect us not to use our brains. That's how the stuff with gaming media went the way it did, and how the Wii U got as horrible of a name it did. Because hey, people were told a thing, and as consumers, you would expect those who are supposed to be in newsworthy positions to be trustworthy. But they are proving that they aren't trustworthy. So why would we listen to them? That's why they're having such a struggle when it comes down to people like Maximilian Dude talking about video games, because he's being genuine and authentic in how he feels about stuff. You don't have to agree with him. You don't have to like what he says, but he's being as genuine and authentic in what he says as possible for him. That's why gaming journalists don't like people like him or people like me that come on and say stuff, because we will tell the truth. Or people like Shadow Fox or Jay or Sandstorm or Jack or Vicky. They don't like us. They don't like any of us that like to just straight up tell the truth and point out where they're wrong. That's why it was Brian Artano that had a problem with Shadow Fox and Jay calling him out on his lies. Stuff that was caught on video that he did. But I'm not going to drag that too much longer. Like, it's just, oh man, my camera went off. Well, you're just going to have a glazed over look on my face for a minute until I can fix the camera real quick. I don't know why it just went off. It'll fix itself in a moment. But that is very frustrating, and you're seeing the same thing happening again. We're seeing the same thing happening again, and people will say, well, no, during this time frame they weren't trying to do that, but that's exactly what was done. So it's easy to get frustrated at it. And now people are like, oh yeah, man, they screwed up. They screwed up royally. But I'm done with that. I just wanted to get that little rant out the way because it was on my mind, and I was going to it was either going to come out now, or I was going to do a discussion that was going to take about the same amount of time anyway. So kill two birds with one stone. If there's any random other subject anybody wants to talk about or wants me to talk about, please throw it in the chat. I will gladly take it up and give my thoughts and opinions, as long as it's something I am aware of or I can quickly look up. Oh, one other thing. If you're curious, just do a quick Google search on the term hands-on with Project Cafe and put console in parentheses because there is a separate thing called Project Cafe now. Afterwards, it's a recent thing, and I just found that out by doing the search. If you want to look back at some of the stuff that was talked about Project Cafe, again, the console before the whole Wii U confusion debacle. It's an interesting little trip down memory lane for those of us that were around during the time frame, and for those who weren't into gaming at the time or were too young. Shows you a little bit of history that you might not have known. Especially when one of the first results, at least one of the first results I get, is from Eurogamer, which is kind of funny when they're one of the ones complaining about there not being any gimmicks. But well, I'll leave that one alone after that. So, I did want to do the idea of it was like last year during the summer I said something about it. Doing a idea breakdown for a roguelike beat 'em up. I still want to do that idea because I think that that's an interesting way to do a take on a roguelike. And if anybody wants to cram any ideas down there, I am glad to take all that in and eventually do a full video, because I do want to do a video series called Gigs Originals, where they are my original from scratch video game ideas that I wouldn't mind posting, because I don't mind talking about stuff like that. Because I would like to do those and then roll them into Gamer Idea Foundries and then just do a full scale discussion on it with other people, which I want to get back into doing those, but I'll probably have to figure out a different day, because I don't want to be conflicting with Jack when he does his stuff on Thursdays when he starts up. Hey, what's up, J Biggs? But I'll figure it out. I'll talk to him and figure something out. I'm usually off on Thursdays anyway, so if I do it on Thursdays, maybe I might do it earlier in the day or later, depending on when he does his stuff. We'll figure it out. Because Thursdays were my day for it, but I'd fallen off of doing them because of other stuff going on in my life, and then taking on a second job. Yeah, that kind of screwed that pooch very raw. Pause on that one. An in-game achievement is if it's something that like you get achievements for actually accomplishing things and not just achievements for crossing a chapter. I'd be up for that. I wouldn't really call it an achievement system, though, at least from my perspective. It would just be in a system of unlocking things, and unlocking things would be the achievements. Because I think that the idea of having a road like beat 'em up is a fun thing, where you have, say you take the layout type from Streets of Rage 4, do like a city area layout, but when you're not fighting, strictly when you're not fighting, you have the behind the back camera for traveling around, and then go into certain sections of the city, and you'll get markers where you will be able to begin fighting for that portion of the city. And then multiple times, like the more you go into it, each time you go in, you have different randomized enemy setups. Like, again, I think I kind of went into this a little bit before, but like, say your first area is like the first area, like the first stage of Final Fight, where you're just fighting through a neighborhood. Like, you're fighting through a neighborhood, go into like some sort of underground garage or bunker, and then come out the other side, or go into like a train station or something like that. Stuff like that. But what's randomized, not the area layout isn't randomized, though you may have random chances to diverge your path. Like, so if you go in, for one instance, certain doors may be closed, and you can go in those doors if they're opened during certain other variations of the stage. Some of those variations will lead you down different paths. Some of them will just be extra rooms where you can fight more enemies. Some of them will lead to different boss fights that would potentially be available, and that could be fun. Like who wouldn't have fun being able to try to create a seed where they have all of the bosses in the stage all of the stage bosses in the stage at the same time. Like that would be amazing to be able to find like the seed numbers like that, because that's what roguelikes do. They just rearrange what's available to you. Or you might have different types of grunts that you would fight that wouldn't normally be in that area. Like you could either do it based upon like just a random seeding, or during certain times of day, certain things do happen. Like if you're playing at 2 a.m., the scene would be darker and you'll face different enemies than you would face if you played it like 10 a.m. or at 5 p.m. in the evening. Which that could be something interesting to work on. It just depends. That takes a whole lot of technical skill. I know that it takes a lot of technical skill to kind of interweave that in between the roguelike setup. But just something that could be cool like that, where you could have dedicated characters and have the potential to make your own character, and the dedicated characters have their own skill trees set up. That would be interesting. That would be interesting, but that would take on removing the roguelike status from it. What did you do, little girl? How is it that you keep getting stuff on your hands and your feet? There you go. Mommy's out with your brother. Well, go play with your toys. Little girl hounding me for stuff. Hold on one second. I'll be right. Okay, back. So to answer this, and then I'll jump to the other ones real quick. Can we do a Mega Man X style where alternate routes change based on who you fight first, or do specific things to influence the next stage so it'll keep whose sons? Where's the sons? Is we naming the gang already? The sons? Like, bro. That could be done, but that would take away from the idea of it being a road like and be more of a choose your own path type of thing, which I'm cool with that too. That is also cool to do, because that's also like a, for those who played it, the first virtual cop. If you played the first virtual cop stage 1, 2, and 3 straight through, you got an extra boss at the end of the third stage. But if you played them in any different order, you also got different variations of the game's ending based upon who the last boss you fought was. So I'm cool with doing something like that. That would be fun to me. I'd be up for that, where you take out certain members of the gang and certain other members become available, or you fight them in different places based on where you go first. That could be cool. That could be cool. Do that with like 10 stages, and 10 stages that are all need to be taken care of before you get to the final stage. So yeah, I could see something like that working, like where you got to take out certain gang leaders and stuff like that. But that, I would say River City kind of almost did something like that, but it didn't quite do that. Like the River City games have a similar feel to that. So I could see that being something be interesting to do. It sounds like I would be playing Double Dragon, being jumped by Adobo, Green Adobo, and Chin Chin at once. That would be horrible. That would be horrible and sad. Uh, but you wouldn't necessarily be jumped by the bosses all at the same time. They would just all be able to appear on the level. Now, different bosses would have different setups. Like there are some bosses where you'd have a time frame to get to them, and if you don't get to them by that time frame, they are rushing to you. And it would be apparent because it would be a bar on the screen to show that. Like if you don't get to them by a certain time, their patience runs out and they come to you, which would create different situations for dialogue, because I want dialogue to be expressed in something like this. Like that could be fun too. And then when they get mad, you see a little icon in the corner that shows them running. That would be something I think would be cool to do. And you still would have to make it to the end of the level to actually beat the level, or one of the exit points of the level to beat it. Mega Man X7 lost quite a bit of stuff it had going for it. It was supposed to be a two-player game originally. I remember having I want to say it was Game Informer magazines where they showed the stills of I think at the time it was X and Axel were on the screen at the same time. And they even had some screenshots of some stuff that got taken out the game, because I remember there being a screenshot showing it was either X or Axel jumping off of a ledge to grab a heart container, like, but that never ended up in the actual final game, because I remember it's like being like a shot over a city. I just don't have the magazine anymore. I wish I still did. That would have been cool to have. Maybe they're in the city, Bayonetta style challenges, and they will set parameters of the fights. That could be cool too. Do something like that, or dare I say it, do something in the style of the Sonic Adventure games, where you go back to a level and it just has different objectives to achieve in the levels. That way, you wouldn't be randomizing everything, but you'd be playing specific variations of the level, or you beat all of those to unlock the randomization of the stages and how they proceed. That actually would solve several problems and also create something for the speed running community on top of that, which could actually be a benefit to the game if it was done. So yeah, that'd be interesting to do. Yeah, there would have to be a traditional boss rush. I can't even disagree with that. There would have to be a traditional boss rush, but it unlocks in different tiers. Like you unlock a tier for all of the guys, you unlock a tier for all of the girls, and you also unlock a version of it that just has all of the bosses that you have fought so far as you go through it. And maybe a specific one for like the master class bosses, or one for the low level bosses and stuff, mid tiers. That things could be done with that could make it interesting, make it fun for people. And thank you, Geronimo. It's nice to finally be here. And seems YouTube is starting to push me a little bit more, because I'm getting way more views than I normally would. So thank you very much and welcome in. Um, but that could be done. You know what? I think I could do a video going over that. It would be a long video. It would be a long video because I'd have to break it down into sections. But you could have a set of ready-made characters, maybe like 3, 4, maybe 5. Maybe give you 5 different characters that are already ready-made to be able to play with, and maybe add in a few extras as unlockables, but also have the ability to create and build a character. And each character has their own skill tree. And for the character you're building, you build the skill tree along the way. So the other characters, you unlock their skill trees, sort of like Streets of Rage 4. But for the character you're building, as you level up, you are able to add more to your character skill tree, which I mean, that's almost two separate systems, but it could be based upon the same thing. It just depends on how it's done. And with that, you'd have to have like some sort of online mode. I'd want it to be 4 players online automatically, because you could have group runs through something like that, and that would be fun to be able to do. I think that having yourself a squad of people to go beat up on gang members would be fun. Like, that's why I was like disappointed with Streets of Rage 4. It was only 2 players. I was like, but you have a 4-player mode. Y'all couldn't do 4-player online. Y'all couldn't have done that. I mean, there are ways to do it, but you have to work around how, at least on PC, is ways to do it. And that's kind of working around how it registers the players, because you'd have to use something like Parsec in order to do it. But it's doable on PC. But on home consoles, it's not. And you can't do, and they don't have crossplay for those. I'm like, man, y'all should institute crossplay. Well, technically, I think if you have PC and Xbox, you do, but like everywhere else, it should have been available. But that's something I think I'm going to have to write that script out and then take time to like really dive deep into doing it, because that would be something that's something I would love to see happen, and I think it could be done under the right circumstances, in the right hands. I think .mu would definitely want to take this idea up and run with it, because they seem to be heavy on the classic 2D style beat 'em ups, and I think that would be something interesting to really dive into. Give them the chance to make a really big, large scale beat 'em up. I think that they could do it though. All right. Any other subjects anybody would like to talk about or like me to talk on? Because I mean, that's something, the whole beat 'em up idea is something I would really have to sit down and think about. And while I do enjoy talking about it and brainstorming here, at the same time, I know like the ideas I was given, I can do something with. So I don't want to do too much more on that, because I think that being able to present it separately afterwards would be good for everybody else, and it allows me to make more content, which I've been doing pretty decent this month. I've done decently this month. I think I've got about 20 something videos out this month alone. When you combine shorts, live streams, and the normal long form videos, I think I've done decently. Keeping the stuff going, because I've had a little bit more time to actually sit down and work on things and not be beholden to both of my jobs, because one of them is just seasonal. So that one's ending the season, obviously, as I'm saying it. And it seems like, again, YouTube is pushing some of my videos. Not all, but some of them. Because I'm getting way more viewership than I was before. Any thoughts, any ideas that I know Geronimo's just listening in, but anybody got any thoughts or ideas that they would like me to talk on that's listening in, for all of the 6 people that are watching right now? As soon as I said that, people just dropped out. I was like, damn, y'all don't want to interact with me? Y'all don't like me? Because I could come up with something, but I was just trying to interact with the chat a bit. Because I can easily just randomly come up with something. Oh, see, y'all just going to leave me to do it myself. Okay, cool. I got it. Y'all want me to do it. Let's see if there's something that pops up at random. I will discuss it. And thank you guys for the likes so far, for everybody that's in here, because it helps. I don't want to talk about the thing that's on my mind right now because that's something far later I'm trying to work on. Um, I do have the next pick your poison. You said you want a character action game with Captain Falcon by Platinum. You know what, bruh? I agree. Platinum would do that man justice. Platinum would do him justice, or Team Ninja. I'd also give it to them to do because they would definitely work really well. Oh, hold up, wife calling. So sorry for the very quiet. It was an important phone call, but I'm going to have to jump off because, like I said, that phone call was important. Something important came up. But I do plan on doing more of these, and I'll try to be on them more often. Hopefully, not to be interrupted on the phone. But again, it was an important thing, and I wasn't going to miss the phone call because it was something dealing with stuff going on with my son. So thank everybody for jumping in. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry for that long bout of silence. But I'll get more of these out, and we'll do more and more discussions. All right. So peace out, folks, and y'all all have a good evening and day.